fan of Rubik's, or yes, kind of?
Yep.
You are, awesome.
Familiar with Rubik's?
Familiar with Rubik's,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
100%, great.
So I'm thinking about the ways in which the STEM skills that kids learn at school can be useful in their future careers, whatever those future careers may be. Maybe they're STEM careers, maybe they're not STEM careers. How does that work in terms of the kinds of things that you're doing with kids around maybe problem solving or critical creative thinking?
Yeah, so problem solving is a really good skill to sort of talk about. I suppose, like, we have rubrics, and I don't know if, like, Mandy, that's probably, like, Rubik's, I don't know, are you a fan of Rubik's, or yes, kind of? Like,
Yep.
You are, awesome.
Familiar with Rubik's?
Familiar with Rubik's,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
100%, great. So I think rubrics go a little bit of the way, because, like, one of the ways to problem solve is to look at data and then use it. So that's a big skill that kids find really challenging. The other cool one is, like, errors, and trying to link errors and improvements in data. So I think it's a skill that you keep reiterating, and you try to have many different contexts for it, I suppose, if that helps. Because sometimes the kids do, like, in VC, they might do a prac investigation and they're linking to a particular theory, and the big area they sort of really struggle with is where those errors are, and then, you know, the implications of that. But then when you have junior school kids, it's like, well, the errors might be not something we want to talk about just yet, because we just want to find patterns and link that way. So you sort of have to, like, really shift the gears a little bit in terms of how you talk through that. So rubrics kind of useful, even though there sometimes can be a bit of a bugbear. At times it's like, oh, what am I marking? But I think that's one way to sort of scaffold that problem solving.
I like the way that you talk about like transferable skills. So you're talking about problem solving in one setting, and then you talk about problem solving in another setting. So the kids get that chance of saying, oh, it's not just problem solving for this topic, for this question, but actually I'm doing this thing called problem solving, which is also applied in this other context or in other context. And as you have in a rubric, when you start to get a description of that skill, perhaps that's helpful for kids to understand what they're doing. Because sometimes we get them to do those things, but we don't explain what's going on at the same time. Yeah.
Do you find that the best way to teach, I suppose, with that STEM stuff is, like, being quite explicit? Is that probably the best strategy?
I think that's really helpful, because what happens is that teachers plan great lessons, and those kinds of critical, collaborative, you know, creative skills are inbuilt. But if the kids don't actually have that pulled out a little bit, and let's talk about it, and what did you do when you were thinking critically or whatever, then helping them to see that that's a skill and how it gets built, I think you lose some opportunities there too.
Awesome. And I think the other one that's sort of, I think just through that discussion, like, it's about reflecting a bit. And I think sometimes there's nothing more fun than you fill out the marking scheme and all that sort of stuff and no one reads it. Like, I think the opportunity to reflect is really important, because, like, then it gives you a chance to go and apply your understanding. Because when you do give that feedback, then it's kind of pertinent to, like, use it. And it's not just for the mark per se, but to sort of see, oh, that's the link I'm trying to make. And then, yeah, like how you said, like, just different examples of that as well, because if you make that explicit, then it starts to become a bit more easier, tangible as well.
And is that kids reflecting on their own progress and their own thinking? Is that what you mean when you talk about reflection?
Yeah. So, I mean, you sort of can reflect during the task, which is really cool, and then probably post the task as well. But I think it's almost a chance to, like, you know, step back and, again, just take that perspective. And it's similar to, like, teaching. Like, we problem solve all the time when we teach, right? So, like, it's not that useful to not reflect on that opportunity, because how are you going to learn from it? So hopefully we're sort of demonstrating that skill by actually doing it ourselves. And that's kind of nice as well, because then, I mean, you know, all that STEM, the way you think about STEM is so applicable, not just in, you know, just your science, technology, engineering, maths, also in education, really. So that's sort of nice to sort of say, oh, we're actually, you know, users of that as well.
Yes, and some of the things that we know about jobs of the future, for instance, they are not the jobs necessarily that we know now. I've seen things about being cricket farmers or robot ethicist, for example, where the kinds of skills that the students are learning with you around how do you sort of set up a problem, how do you solve it, how do you start to think divergently, how do you work in a team cooperatively, are the kinds of things that can take you into those careers that we don't even know about yet.
It's exciting. Like Dad said, honestly, like, we have all these career chats and stuff, and one thing that's really like kind of consistent is those broad skills like collaborating, problem solving, acting on feedback, like regardless of what subject you do or what sort of learning is going on. I mean, you could have like 7 careers in your lifetime. That's pretty amazing. Like not 7 jobs, like different career. And we've got to find what that transferable skill is. So it's kind of exciting that we're trying to model that through the subjects we do at school.
Yes.
So it's almost like a bit of a role play of what you might do in the future.
Yeah, cool. And I liked what you mentioned before about errors too, like understanding that errors are part of the way in which we work across different STEM subjects, but that can be pretty confronting for younger kids.
Yeah.
And starting with thinking about patterns and shifting into seeing maybe discrepancies with patterns or how errors emerge.
Yeah.
I'm curious, can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think errors, like it's always cool when you start that first science lesson or early science lesson where you talk about like, errors are okay. Like, it's just a measurement and every measurement has an error. It's a lot different to a mistake, like if you didn't follow the instructions of the mistake. But if you can acknowledge what that error is and then start understanding it, often in science you get more questions than answers anyway. So it's about like identifying what is it and then what are the implications, and that's really high order thinking. And it's really hard and it takes time, but that's more practice you get better, I suppose. But that's also where you reflect on it a little bit more. So you can definitely differentiate better as well with your high, medium, low with your kids as well, because that question still I'm puzzled in terms of like you do an experiment, you think, well, there's a lot of errors here, but what is the implication of it? So I think that's one I know as a teacher I'm still finding my way through that as well, which is exciting. So, that's part of the conversation, isn't it?
Feeling good about errors. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So it's good. Like I think that's a really nice point, because I thought, and it shows you how it's embedded throughout, isn't it? So it's exciting.
Oh, that's great.